Congressman, good to see you. Congrats on the book.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Go Army.
Oh God, I did. All right,
Right
I'm
out
just
the
gonna let
gate.
that go. You know what? I wanted to be nice. I wanted to stay. Okay, fine. This is where we are. I thought we'd be on the same team at least for the next 8 days. All right, I want to break this down into both the policy and the personal because I love the read. I don't mean to make this all about the Navy and the SEALs, but did you read Dan Crenshaw's book before you wrote this?
Don't tell Dan, but I listened to about half of it.
No, no. Anyway,
I loved his personal story in there.
right. The reason I bring this up is not to make it a Navy SEAL thing, but I found you guys had a lot of similarities and from a very different perspective. But I was just kind of drawn as I was thinking. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Obviously, difference.
Yeah, like channeling my inner Navy SEAL, I thought it was a bit more like Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership, where, each chapter you're in combat, you learn a lesson from that painful experience. In his case, he applied it to business, and mine to this new kind of combat I'm in, which is
Yeah,
which is politics.
I love the hat tip you gave to the Navy on page 92. You write, unless otherwise directed. And I was like, it's so true. Like this idea that people give people that you are that are subordinate to you directions and then trust the judgment and the training that they've been given to execute.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, back in the day of the sailing ship, right? You had no radio, no internet, obviously. You gave the ship captain, the fleet commander, the strategic vision. The Great White Fleet, for example, in the late 19th century, and guardrails and guidance, and then let them go. Let your subordinates do the job. And I echo that again in bottoms up leadership, where as senior leaders, we should be about providing strategy, vision, and then resources to achieve it. Stop micromanaging by literally. I've had situations where generals were giving me guidance on where to place my men because they could see over, the all-seeing eye of predator drones and what have you, and it actually hurts the mission when you're trying to micromanage in the way that we often find our Pentagon doing today.
Yeah. It was interesting though, because you tell the story about taking action, decisions, leadership. I mean, kind of how you made decisions about what to do as a Green Beret. And there was a line that stuck out to me early on in the book where you write, what if we don't take action, right? You were faced with these situations. One involved taking out a young child that was being used, as a spotter and could, anyway.
Yeah.
The line, again, that line stuck out to me. What if we don't take action? And obviously, this is initially in the context of your military leadership. And then you segue into your role as a member of Congress. And I couldn't help but get that line out of my head because I kept thinking to myself, the threat that China poses, the threat that the deficit continues and the debt continue to be to our nation. And I ask this so many times, Congressman, of people that come on the show. It's like there's this cycle of the fiscal year comes up and then we can't pass the budget and then we do a continuing resolution, we kick the can. And I kept going back in my head to, what if we don't take action?
Yeah.
Why is it different now? Why aren't some of these folks standing up and saying, guys, I'm not going home. I'm not going to just come home, vote, but I'm going to stand up to cut some spending to do the right thing against China. But I don't know. That line stuck in my head because as a military leader, it's one thing, but as a member of Congress, it's almost like they go, hey, we tried, sorry.
No, look, Sean, it's rampant in Washington. It's rampant in our military now because taking bold action, putting your neck out there and taking the arrows that comes with it, or guess what? Sometimes you might be wrong. Sometimes you might miss. So the default action with our all-career military or the default action in Washington becomes inaction. Kind of keep the lights on, keep getting reelected, keep the same old status quo. And it's one of the many reasons I am so forcefully behind Donald J. Trump because he doesn't give a damn. He's going to break some China. He's going to create a new branch of the military like the Space Force, even though the generals hate it. He's going to pivot on China. He's going to say we can have peace in the Middle East if you just focus on Iran rather than
Yeah,
the
yeah, but and
Palestinian
I agree
issue,
with
and
you. Like
on and on.
having worked for Trump, I tell people this. I was in Arizona over the weekend. I was telling these folks this story of him, when it came to trade deals and everything else. Yeah, he was not afraid to break glass. He was like, screw it. I'm not, just because that's how it used to be. But why aren't the members of Congress taking his lead and saying, all right, I see what Donald Trump's doing. I'll stand up and I'll take on China. I'll take on these issues. I feel like it's these, everyone's willing to say, yeah, Trump did it, and we point to him, but where's the congressional leadership willingness to fight?
Well, I'm not going to make excuses, Sean, but I'll tell you the kind of the setup, at least in the House, where you've got 220 direct reports, any one of which can fire you if they don't agree with your play call, is making it pretty tough on anybody that gets in there. We have to get back to, we have our internal debates. They get ugly, they get tough, but when we make the call as a conference, particularly on the Republican side, then that's the direction we go. And you get too many of those calls bad, then you fire them. But
Fair enough,
it's
fair
really
enough. But don't you
paralyzed.
think, fair enough, I
Yeah.
get the system sucks and the majority is thin, right? And why we need a bigger majority in the next Congress. But at the end of the day, don't you think the leadership should say, all right, Congressman Waltz and you other direct reports, we have an existential threat. China wants to take us over economically and militarily. Our deficit is out of control. We need to exhibit some leadership. But at some point, you gave the example of the generals. Like at some point, you say, "Hey guys, if you're not going to lead, then we need new leaders."
Yeah, fair enough. And I think you're going to see that come this new Congress.
Do you think it? That's why. I mean, I've told some folks that I think we need Donald Trump as the leader to tell the Congress, guys, here are the battles that we need to fight because they won't do it themselves. Do you think that's a fair analysis?
Well, look, I mean, when you get the president in place and the commander in chief, he doesn't have just those two roles. He has the leadership mantle of the party.
Yeah.
And I think absolutely right after November 5th, we all sit down. Here's the play call. Here's the priorities. And we get behind it and we move out. And we've got to get back to, I'll take 80% today rather than
Yeah.
100% floundering around never. And so it's going to take some think and lead like a Green Beret kind of mindset as well, rather than being purist, all or nothing, or I take my toys and go home.
Yeah. The problem is I read books at night before I go to bed, and your book got me fired up. I kept thinking, like, I was like, all right, let's go
Glad
charge.
it didn't put you to sleep.
Take the hill. No, I know. You could read it. I've got 4 books out there that will put you to sleep. This one gets you going. Do you think though that we are like our military? Are you concerned? I mean, you talk about leadership. You talk about some of the actions you took. By the way, I think some of the history in here, in terms of how close we've come to real war in the past and how a single person's decision, I learned a lot. I'm telling you, this book is great. It's a great read. I can't put it down. And I thought that the historical perspectives were good too. But do you think that we as a country, from a military perspective, have the readiness we need to take on and hopefully avert any kind of action with China?
No, we don't right now, and this is truly keeps me up at night. We don't have we've slid away the last 4 years of being a meritocracy. Actually, that slide has been happening for some time, with social justice being as important as anything else with this leadership. We've slid away from accountability. George C. Marshall fired over 240 generals when he came in on the eve of World War II. And oh, by the way, speaking truth to power, he convinced FDR not to do massive defense cuts in 1939. I talk about that conversation in the book. And then finally, everything we buy in the Pentagon seems to cost twice as much, take twice as long, and deliver half as much as our soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen deserve.
Yeah.
But it all roots into a culture of accountability. No one gets fired in that building. Everybody stumbles upward perpetually, despite billions wasted. 40% of our submarines can't get out of the repair yard. The Joint Strike Fighter, our most expensive, stealthiest platform ever, has a 29% full mission capable rate. It's totally unacceptable. But where's the accountability for that?
Yeah. You talked about taking 80%, and I agree with you. It's like sometimes we just got to move the ball down the field. If you can get 80%, 90%, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the really good. And it was interesting because this is something, again, that I thought was fascinating how you talk about your experience of restraint, right? Knowing when to push the envelope. Your interactions with some Taliban leaders, etc. But you wrote this: the leader who demonstrates restraint and steps out of that escalation ladder is doing something both radically counterculture and genuinely attractive. Yet that's not what's happening in politics, is it? I mean, I think that it's all or nothing. We got to go after everything, but you talk about it from a military perspective, obviously, how
Yeah, but
important
I
this.
mean, I'll give you two Trump examples. He stepped out of the escalation ladder with Hillary Clinton, despite the fact she had blatantly violated the National Archives law, had tens of thousands of emails, dozens of highly classified, compartmented emails on her own server that could have and may have been hacked by foreign powers. He said, "You know what? We're going to move forward as a country." And unlike Biden, he didn't prosecute her once he controlled the levels of power. And then I talk about how he de-escalated with Iran.
Yeah.
They attacked our international shipping. They attacked international oil. They shot down one of our drones. John Bolton was losing his mind to hit back. It wasn't until they crossed a red line, stormed our embassy, and killed an American that he said, "All right, targeted application of power, take out the field General Soleimani, no collateral damage, and restored stability." So you have the judgment to know restraint, restraint, restraint. But you know what? Enough is enough. I'm actually going to enforce red lines, unlike Obama, and hit back.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the stories in here make you realize how important restraint at the right moment can be because of how close we've come to war. I don't want to give too much away because it's worth the read and understanding. I know that you were at that Madison Square Garden last night. I mean, I honestly, I don't get FOMO, fear of missing out, much, but I was watching you and others at that event and I was like, God, if there's an event I wanted to be at, but I was in Arizona, there was no way I could make the turn. How awesome and iconic was that last night?
Honestly, as a Floridian, I kind of didn't get I'll be honest, I didn't get the big deal. Okay. I love Trump rallies, but, talking to the family and just kind of what this meant to the Trump family, what it meant to him. But the thing that really kind of attracted me to make the trip was just a few months ago, I was sitting behind President Trump in a crappy little New York courtroom watching Biden's number 3 DOJ official sit next to Alvin Bragg, trying to put the man in jail for an accounting dispute. So to go from that to then this, and you did miss out, Sean. I'm sorry to rub it in, brother. It was,
Dude,
I mean, there's kind of that rally vibe, but this was just off the charts. I thought the roof was going to come off when Melania introduced him.
Oh, I
It was
literally
really
was
special.
like, I was watching that thing and I went, oh my God, like this, I can't believe that didn't get more play. I know that the media probably hated that, but I'm telling you, like, you know how like some concerts, like they have like every act lineup. It's like, usually a charity event, Farm Aid, Live Aid, all those things where everyone plays. Last night, I felt like that was like the MAGA version of that. It was Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Dr. Phil. I was like, every time somebody else came out, I went, oh my gosh. Anyway, Congressman, congrats on the book. It's Hard Truth, Think and Lead Like a Green Beret. I'm telling you, it's appropriate. There are certain things that come out at the right time. And this book is what we need to be reading right now as we head into a Trump victory. And we got to know, what is our focus? What do we need to accomplish? And when do we need to exhibit restraint?
And how to think differently about our nation and the world. And Sean, just real quick, none of my proceeds, all of my proceeds will go to the family of one of my Green Berets that I lost, the Matthew Pacino Foundation. So everybody get out there and get one. It's going to go into a good cause.
Well, great read, good cause. Congressman, thanks for writing this. Thanks for being with us. And we'll see you after the election. Appreciate you being with us.
All right. Go Navy, Sean.
Thank you. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.